Hey guys, can you guys hear me okay? Awesome. Well, today I get to talk about the lovely topic that Giannis just kind of mentioned, which is what do you do when your protocol gets hacked and suddenly all of your funds are gone? Usually the immediate question is well, how do you fix your protocol? But the next question is oh no, we have no money, we need to do something about that. Now, this presentation is actually kind of fun, and by the way, this is some information about me while I talk because I only have 10 minutes, but this presentation is kind of fun because this is also geared towards improving your security posture as well. So all of the tidbits that I'm providing to you are also tidbits that you shouldn't just be thinking about your protocol, but also how you can maybe better secure yourself down the line. So our goal today is to find who out the bad guy is. And on our agenda, we only have 3 different items. Those are doing contract analysis, funds tracing analysis, and OSINT, or open source intelligence analysis. We're basically playing detective. So let's talk about contract analysis. Now, I'm in a room full of auditors right now. I'm not going to be giving you guys the whole spiel of what contract analysis is. You guys know that better than me. But there's a lot of interesting stuff you can do when looking at attackers who deploy smart contracts on chain, particularly in terms of tracking funds. So look at who's funding that deployer, right? Where is the attacker actually cashing out? Those things can tell you a lot about who this person might be, especially what times that they're transacting at. Another thing, though, that I know a lot of you think about from time to time as auditors, but we as security researchers look a lot into, which is actually looking at 4-byte analysis, right? Taking a look at those 4 bytes, those functions that these attackers are using, and seeing where are they being reused, right? Same thing with storage slots, and there's a lot more here, and we don't have time for it, unfortunately. But instead, I'm going to spend a lot of time on case studies today, because I think within this bit of time, it's the best way to use it. So we know that earlier this year, WazirX was hacked for about $240 million. And this was due to a multi-sig exploit upgrade involving a malicious contract upgrade, right? Now, we know the source of funds for the particular attacker who was doing that contract upgrade. Those originated from Tornado Cash. Classic. But if we were to do 4-byte analysis on this particular attacker, and their particular initial contract that they deployed, we'd see here that they're using this specific 4-byte in that contract. And lo and behold, if we look 1 day prior, these guys were deploying a contract from a separate address entirely, right? An address that had nothing to do with this initial attack, but using those exact 4 bytes. Some of you guys might say, oh, Heidi, well, this looks like a very simplistic function, like maybe this was reused, copy-pasted. No, there were a lot of other examples of how this stuff overlapped. Now, interestingly enough, that deployer address that deployed that contract on July 9th, so the one that we think might also be the attackers, it actually sent funds to Tornado Cash that same day. So, interesting. So maybe the funds came from this testing address and then was sent on to the actual deployer who deployed the malicious contract. But we'll get back to that in just a second. Because we also want to talk about funds tracing analysis. Now, investigations can be hampered by a lot of different things that I would like to call anonymizers, so to speak. So that can be mixers, like in the case of Tornado Cash, bridges as well, increasingly, as they become more and more complex, centralized entities and services, as well as new services that come on chain. And time again, I have found that new attackers like to leverage new services because it's difficult for investigators to actually trace through them to figure out where the funds are flowing to. It's an obvious one, right? But there are, of course, workarounds. Let's take that WazirX case again, right? In this case, right, we know the source of funds originated from Tornado Cash. And if we were to do a very quick analysis using Dune Analytics, taking a look at all of the different addresses that had both deposited into that 0.1 ETH contract and both withdrew around that same time period, you'd find something interesting. You'd find that this address here, that was the address, the one that deposited 0.6 ETH into it, that was the address that deployed that contract on July 9th, the one that we thought was the testing contract. And we can see then down the line, a couple hours later, that address that actually conducted the actual hack on WazirX received then 0.5 ETH, and actually down the line, another address of theirs received 0.1 ETH as well. So it's very easy to match up the deposits and withdrawals from Tornado Cash in this particular case. But it's fuzzy, right? We can't for 100% sure say that it is indeed the attacker or not, but the 4-byte analysis is at least a little bit more solid on that front. So now let's talk about my favorite section, which is the OSINT analysis portion. Whoop, my bad. People don't realize how many clues they leave off-chain. So my big takeaway for today should be find any Web3 to Web2 connections you yourselves have. You don't even realize it, right? Any profile picture you reuse and recycle. Maybe you want to have your profile picture recycled on your ENS and on your Twitter, but maybe you also don't when you're deploying a new contract for one of your projects, right? NFTs obviously are amazing, but another thing that a lot of people don't think about is POAPs. POAPs really tell a lot about who you are. So if you collect any of those, just be wary of where you're saving those. They're also useful, obviously, when you're looking into attackers as well. ENS handles, that's an obvious one, but there's also a lot of other data crumbs left behind. And now I'm kind of going to go into a really fun case study, if I can click next, that involves a DeFi protocol. That paid out a very small amount of test funds to a developer to use, and this was back in February of this year. This poor, unfortunate DeFi protocol got wrecked last month due to a private key compromise. The key suspect is DPRK, unfortunately. Okay, we've kind of heard this story over and over again, so what gives? Well, there are a couple of things that went on with this dev that were really suspicious. So first off, this dev really liked to use profanity addresses. I'm not hating on profanity here. It was just an interesting insight because it made me realize, wait a second, it was easy to find some of his other addresses. He then sent some of those test funds that he had received from that DeFi protocol to another address, and that address connected to several others. Then, when you looked at those several others, you'd find that he had created several different ENS handles over the years, some of which actually linked to DAO exploits that happened. One of them, for example, was Yam Finance back in 2020. So this dude's been around for a really long time. And then the icing on the cake was that he had sent some funds directly to an OFAC address that was related to DPRK. And it was not an exchange address. It was an address that had only ever received 20 transactions. So this thing, it was donezo. At this point, it was clear that this poor protocol had at least one person working for them that was DPRK, which was pretty concerning. So we've got some takeaways here, though, from today. So first and foremost, attackers are early adopters, so it makes sense to always keep learning. You too should also keep learning because I'm sure you'll find some good alpha there too. Attackers are very fun to learn from. There are numerous free tools online that exist, some of which that I showcased today in the presentation because I wanted, I wanted to use stuff that everyone has access to. And last but certainly not least is you want to combine all of your research methods. So in a lot of the case studies that I used, a lot of the analytics kind of overlapped, right? Funds tracking, OSINT, as well as contract analysis. And with that, thank you, and yeah.